A planet orbits the Sun in an elliptical path as shown in the figure. Let Vp and Va be the speed of the planet at the perihelion and aphelion respectively. Which of the following relation is correct? The options given are Rp upon Ra is equals to Va upon Vp, Rp upon Ra is equal to Vp upon Va, Rp upon Ra equals root of Vp upon Va, and Rp upon Ra equals root of Va upon Vp. Now since the planet is the same and since there is no extra addition of force anywhere on the path of the planet, therefore we solve this sum by assuming that the momentum is conserved. Therefore, by conservation of angular momentum, therefore initial angular momentum, that is at the aphelion position, is equals to the angular momentum at the perihelion position. So the angular momentum is given by mass of the planet into the velocity at the aphelion position and the radius or the distance from the center of gravity, that is the Sun over here in this system, at the aphelion position, and it equals to mass of the planet into Vp into Rp. So mass gets cancelled and therefore Rp upon Ra equals to Va upon Vp. Hence option A is the correct answer. The time period of an artificial satellite in a circular orbit of radius r is 2 days and its orbital velocity is v0. If the time period of another satellite in a circular orbit is 16 days, then the options given are its radius of orbit is 4r and orbital velocity is v0. Its radius of orbit is 4r and orbital velocity is v0 by 2. Its radius of orbit is 2r and the orbital velocity is v0. Its radius of orbit is 2r and orbital velocity is v0 by 2. To solve this sum, we need to recollect the Kepler's third law. According to Kepler's third law, the square of the time period is proportional to the cube of the radius. Therefore, for both the satellites, when we compare the time periods, we can write it as now R2, that is the radius, orbital radius of the second satellite, can be given as R1 times T2 by T1 is to 2 by 3. Now since the time period of the second planet is 16 days and of the first planet is 2 days, substituting the values, we get R1 times 16 by 2 is to 2 by 3. So that is nothing but 4 times R1. Let R1, we'll assume R1 as R as a standard. Now the value for orbital velocity is given by root of gm by r. So for the orbital velocity of the second satellite to the orbital velocity of the first satellite can be given by as a ratio of r1 by r2. Now r2 is nothing but 4r and r1 is also written as r. Therefore v0 of 2 upon v0 of 1 is equals to root of r upon 4r, that is nothing but half. Therefore v0 of second satellite is equals to half of v0 of the first satellite. Therefore from the given options, as we can see that the radius is 4 times and the velocity is half. So option B matches the given answers. Hence option B is the correct answer. A geostationary satellite is orbiting the Earth at a height of 6r above the surface of the Earth, where r is the radius of the Earth. The time period of another satellite at a height of 2.5r from the surface of the Earth in hours is, the options are 3 root 2 hours, 1.5 root 2 hours, 6 root 2 hours and 12 root 2 hours. Now let us look at this of Earth. This has a radius r, and there is a satellite at a height of 6 r. So the total radius along which the satellite traverses is nothing but 6r plus r. That can be written as 7r. Now the second satellite is at a height of 2.5 r from the surface. So the total radius is nothing but 2.5 plus r, that is 3.5 times r. Now, since the first satellite is a geostationary satellite, it means the time period of the first satellite is nothing but same as that of the Earth, that is 24 hours. Now what we need to find out is the time period of the second satellite. By Kepler's law, as we know that T square is directly proportional to R cube. Therefore, T2 is nothing but R2 upon R1 times 3 by 2. Therefore, into T1. Therefore, T2 is nothing but 24, that is T1, times 3.5 R upon 7 R. So this R gets cancelled and there's half. So 24 into half is to 3 by 2. So that can be given as 24 upon 2 root 2, which is nothing but 6 root 2 hours. Hence, option C is the correct answer. Assuming that Earth and Mars are move in circular orbits around the Sun, with the Martian orbit being 1.52 times the orbital radius of the Earth, the length of the Martian year in days is, the options given are 1.52 raised to 2 by 3 times 365, 1.52 raised to 3 by 2 times 365, 1.52 raised to 2 times 365, and 1.52 cube into 365. Now, since the Earth and Mars are moving in circular orbits around the Sun, we'll use Kepler's law, Kepler's third law actually, and which says that the square of the time period is proportional to the cube of the orbital radius. Now, for Mars, the time period with respect to Earth can be written as r, that is radius of Mars and radius of the Earth cubed. So this can be written as, the time period of Mars can be given as the radius of the Mars, which is nothing but 1.52 cube into the time period of the Earth square. Now the time period of the Earth is 365 days. So therefore, the radius of the Mars, or the time period of the Mars, can be given as 1.52 raised to 3 by 2 time period of the Earth. That is 1.52 raised to 3 by 2 times 365 days. Hence, option B is the correct answer. The ratio of the velocity of the satellite at apogee and perigee is, the options are half, 1 by 3, 1 by 4 and 1 by 6. When a satellite moves in an elliptical orbit about a planet, these are the two extreme positions, the perigee and the apogee. Now the orbital radius at perigee to the orbital radius is given by 2:6, that is nothing but 1:3. The orbital distance between the apogee and the perigee can be given as 1:3. Now, considering conservation of angular momentum, so the angular momentum at the perigee is equals to angular momentum at the apogee. Therefore, the mass of the satellite times the velocity at perigee into radius of perigee is equals to mass of the satellite into the velocity at apogee into the radius of orbit at the apogee. So the mass gets cancelled, and hence velocity at the apogee to the velocity of perigee is nothing but rp upon ra, which is 2 times the radius of the earth or the radius of the planet divided by 6 times the radius of the planet, that is 2 by 6, which is nothing but 1 by 3. Hence option B is the correct answer. A Saturn year is 29.5 times the Earth year. How far is the Saturn from the Sun if the Earth is 1.5 into 10 raised to 8 kilometers away from the Sun? The options given are 1.4 into 10 raised to 6, 1.4 into 10 raised to 7, 1.4 into 10 raised to 8, and 1.4 into 10 raised to 9. Now, since the Saturn year is greater, they have given us the time period of the Saturn year is nothing but 29.5 times the time period of the Earth year. Now, using Kepler's relation, Ts upon Te, the square of it can be written as Rs, that is the radius of the satellite, radius of Saturn to the radius of Earth, orbital radius from the Sun. Therefore, orbital radius of the Saturn is equals to orbital radius of the Earth, Ts by Te raised to 2 by 3. Therefore, Rs, that is the orbital radius of the Saturn, is nothing but 1.5 times to 10 raised to 8. Now, Ts by Te is given as 29.5 raised to 2 by 3. So, this turns out to be 29.5 into 1.5, so 1.4 to 10 raised to 9 kilometers. Hence, option D is the correct answer. A planet revolves around the Sun in an elliptical orbit. If Vp and Va are the velocities of the planet at the perigee and apogee respectively, then the eccentricity of the elliptical orbit is given by, the options are Vp by Va, Va minus Vp upon Va plus Vp, Vp plus Va upon Vp minus Va, and the last option is Vp minus Va upon Vp plus Va. As we know that velocity at perigee and velocity at apogee can be related by A times 1 plus E upon A times 1 minus E, where A is nothing but the semi-major axis of the ellipse. Therefore, to solve for E, we get Vp times 1 minus E equals Va times 1 plus E. Therefore, Vp minus E times Vp is equals to Va plus E times Va. Therefore, we take out E common. Va plus Vp is equals to Vp minus Va. Therefore, E, that is the eccentricity, is nothing but Vp minus Va upon Va plus Vp. Hence, option D is the correct answer. If a graph is plotted between t square and r cube for a planet, then its slope will be, where ms is the mass of the Sun. The options given are 4 pi square upon g ms upon 4 pi, 4 pi gms and gms. Now, the time period of revolution of a planet around the sun is given by 2 pi r by v, that is the circumference and velocity v. For 2 pi r, and the velocity can be given as root of gm, or mass of the sun, ms, upon r. Now this r can be taken into the numerator, and this can be written as 2 pi r raised to 3 by 2 upon root of gms, where ms is nothing but the mass of the sun. Now squaring both the sides, in order to remove this root from the equation, we get t square is equals to 4 pi square r raised to 3 upon gms. Now as you can see, this t square is equals to 4 pi square upon gms into r cube. This is nothing but of the form y is equals to mx. For a standard equation, y is equal to mx, where m is nothing but the slope. Similarly, in this case, the term 4 pi square gms is the slope. Therefore, if a graph is plotted, 4 pi square by gms would be the slope. Hence, option A is the correct answer. If the mass placed at vertex A is doubled, then the force acting on the mass 2m placed at the centroid O is, the options given are 0, 2 gm square by L square, 4 gm square by L square, and 6 gm square by L square. Now in this numerical, there is an equilateral triangle ABC with masses m placed at each corners, and the point O is the centroid. Now by geometry, when we look, this angle turns out to be 30 degrees. Since this is a centroid and OC is bisecting the angle ACB, similarly for angle ABC, since it is bisecting the 60 degrees, the half is written as 30 degrees, and if we draw an imaginary horizontal line, this angle turns out to be 30 degrees. And this length AO is nothing but L by root 3. Is nothing but L by root 3. Now, keeping these things in mind, let us continue on with the problem. Now, the force at mass 2m, that is at the point O, due to the mass 2m at point A, will be given by universal gravitational law, that is force is nothing but g times, that is the universal gravitational constant, into the product of the two masses, that is 2m, that is the new value of mass over here, into 2m, which is at the point O, divided by the square of the distance between the two values, that is the length AO. This is L by root 3 squared. So this is nothing but 2L g m square upon L square. But not only does the mass 2m exert a force on the centroid, the masses B and C, that is m and m, also exert similar forces on the point O. Hence, the resultant force is given by Fr dash, can be given by FOA, that is due to the mass at point A, minus FOB sine 30, since the force would act towards B, so the component which cancels it is sine 30, plus FOC sine 30. So FOA is nothing but 12 gm square upon L square minus FOB can be given as 6 gm square upon L square into sine 30 is half. Similarly, FOC 6 gm square by L square into sine 30, that is half. So 12 gm square by L square minus 6, the half plus half becomes 1, so 6 gm square by L square. So the resultant is nothing but 6 gm square by L square. Hence option D is the correct answer. Two stars of masses m1 and m2 are part of a binary star system. The radii of their orbits are r1 and r2 respectively, measured from the center of mass of the system. The magnitude of gravitational force m1 exerts on m2 is, the options given are m1 m2 into g upon r1 plus r2, m1 times g by r1 plus r2 square, m2g upon r1 plus r2 square, and the fourth option is g times m1 plus m2 upon r1 plus r2 the whole square. Now let us just draw the case over here. Say this is the orbit of the first planet and this is the orbit of the second planet. So this is m2, this will be m1, and from the center of the system, that is the center of the mass, this is at a distance of r2 and this is at a distance of r1. So the total distance between the two planets is nothing but r1 plus r2. Now by Newton's law of gravitation, the force that either of the bodies exert on each other is equal to g times m1 m2 upon the distance between the two, r square. So r over here is nothing but r1 plus r2. Therefore the force that 1 exerts on 2 is g times m1 m2 upon r1 plus r2 the whole square. Hence option A is the correct answer. 2 point masses A and B having masses in the ratio 4:3 are separated by a distance of 1 meter. When another point mass C of mass m is placed in between A and B, the force between A and C is 1/3 the force between B and C. Then the distance of C from A is, the options are 2/3 meters, 1/3 meters, 1/4 meters and 2/7 meters. Let us draw this case. This is a mass, this is a point A, point mass B, and there is a point mass C. So MA, MB, and there's just mass MC. Let the point C be at a distance of x from A. So from B it will be at a distance of 1 minus x. And the distance between A and B overall is 1 meters. Now the ratio of masses of MA by MB is given by 4:3. The force between A and C, FAC, is given by Newton's law, that is G times MA upon x square. Similarly, force between BC is again given by Newton's law, that is G times MB upon 1 minus x square. Now according to the given problem, they've said that the force between AC is 1/3 that between BC. So therefore we need to equate this as G times MMA upon x square is equals to 1/3 times GMMB upon 1 minus x square. So ma upon x square is equals to mb upon 3 times 1 minus x square. Therefore ma upon mb is equals to x square upon 3 times 1 minus x square. Now the ratio of ma by mb is given as 4:3 is equals to x square upon 3 times 1 minus x square. Now this 3 gets cancelled on both sides. Therefore, I am taking the 4 is equals to x square upon 1 minus x square. Therefore 2 is equals to x square x upon 1 minus x, pardon me, 1 minus 1 minus x the whole square. So taking the square root, we get 2 is equals to x upon 1 minus x the whole square. Therefore 3x is equals to 2, or x is nothing but 2 by 3 meters. Let us look at the options. So option A, that is 2 by 3 meters, is the right answer. A research satellite of mass 200 kg circles the Earth in an orbit radius 3 by 2 RE, where RE is the radius of the Earth. Assuming the gravitational pull on a mass of 1 kg on the Earth's surface to be 10 newtons, the pull on the satellite will be, the options given are 890 newtons, 889 newtons, 885 newtons, and 892 newtons. Now, according to the Newton's gravitational law, the force between the Earth and the mass of 1 kg will be g, mass of the Earth, into 1 kg divided by the radius or the distance between them squared. Since the mass 1 kg is on the surface of the Earth, therefore the distance is nothing but the radius of the Earth. It is g times me upon re square. Now, the force between the Earth and the satellite F dash as g times mass of the Earth into mass of the satellite, that is 200 kgs, upon the distance or the orbit radius, that is nothing but 3 by 2 times re. So let us take the ratio of F dash by F, which is nothing but 800 upon 9. When we divide this equation 2 by equation 1, the terms g, me get cancelled and re squared get cancelled. So what we are left is 800 by 9. Therefore F dash, that is the force exerted on the satellite by the Earth, is 800 by 9 times F. Since the F is given as 10 newtons, so 800 into 10 by 9, this is nothing but 8000 times divided by 9, which comes to 889 newtons. Hence option B is the correct answer. A small planet is revolving around a very massive star in a circular orbit of radius r with a period of revolution t. The gravitational force between the planet and the star were proportional to r raised to minus 5 by 2. Then the time period t would be proportional to, the options given are r raised to 3 by 2, r raised to 3 by 5, r raised to 7 by 2, and r raised to 7 by 4. Now, according to this given question, the gravitational force is proportional to r raised to minus 5 by 2, which can be written as r raised to 1 by 5 by 2. So F is nothing but g times mass of the star, mass of the planet, r raised to 5 by 2. Now the force, this gravitational force is balanced by the centrifugal force, and for circular motion it is given as mr omega square. then omega can be written as 2 pi by t equals gm m upon r raised to 5 by 2. Now m gets cancelled. Therefore 4 pi square by t square is equals to gm raised to 7 r raised to 7 by 2. Therefore as we can see, t square is equals to 4 pi square upon gm into r raised to 7 by 2. Therefore t square is proportional to r raised to 7 by 2, that is t is proportional to r raised to 7 by 4. Hence option D is the correct answer. If the mass of the sun were 10 times smaller and gravitational constant g were 10 times larger in magnitudes, then which one of the following statements is incorrect? The options given are: walking on the ground would become more difficult, the acceleration due to gravity on the earth will not change, raindrops will fall much faster, and airplanes will have to travel much faster. So let us look. When g is increased by 10 times, and the acceleration due to gravity, I mean the value of g, small g, that is acceleration due to gravity, would be nothing but 10 times g, mass of the earth and mass on whatever it is acting, divided by re, that is the radius of the earth, squared. So this is the value of normal g, which is 9.8 as we know. So g dash, or the new g, would not be 10 times the current g, and hence the acceleration due to gravity on the earth will not change. And since here we can see that it has increased by 10 times, therefore option B is the incorrect statement, hence that is the right answer. The acceleration due to gravity g and density of the earth rho are related by which of the following relations? Rho is equals to 4 pi g re upon 3g. Rho is equal to 3g upon 4 pi g re. Rho is equal to 3g upon 4 pi g into re, and rho is equal to 4 pi g re upon 3g. Now the acceleration due to gravity, that is small g, is given by capital G, gravitational constant, into mass of the earth upon the radius of the earth squared. As we know that the density is nothing but mass upon volume of the earth, which is considered as a sphere, so 4 pi re cube. So the mass of the earth is equals to rho times 4 by 3 pi re cube. Substituting the value of mass of the earth over here, we get g is equals to capital G times rho into 4 by 3 pi re cube upon re square. So which is nothing but 4 by 3 pi rho g into re. Therefore rho is equals to 3 times g upon 4 times pi g into re. So which is nothing but similar to our option number B, hence option B is the correct answer. The mass of the moon is 1/8 of the earth, but the gravitational pull is 1/6 of the earth. It is due to the fact that the options are: the moon is a satellite of the earth, the radius of the earth is 8 by 6 of the moon, the radius of the earth is root of 8 by 6 of the moon, the radius of the earth is 6 by 8 times of that of the earth. Now the acceleration due to gravity on the moon to the ratio of acceleration due to gravity on the earth can be written as capital G me by 8, since the mass of the moon is 1/8 and the radius of the moon squared upon gme upon re squared. So this can be written as Re squared upon 8 times Rm squared. Now the gravitation, that is the ratio of Gm upon Ge, is given as 1 by 6, and which equates to Re square upon 8 Rm square. Therefore Rm into 8 by 6, or root of 8 by 6, is equals to Re. Therefore the radius of the earth is root of 8 by 6 times that of the moon. Hence option C is the correct answer. A body hanging from a spring stretches it by 1 centimeter at the earth's surface. How much will the same body stretch the spring at a place 16,400 kilometers above the earth's surface? The radius of the earth is 6,400 kilometers. The options are 1.28 centimeters, 0.64 centimeters, 3.6 centimeters, and 0.12 centimeters. Now in equilibrium, the weight of the suspended force, when the body is in equilibrium on a spring, so the weight of the spring or weight of the body is balanced by the spring tension or the spring force. Therefore mg is equals to k times x, that is the deflection in the spring. Now at a height h dash, mg dash will be equals to k times x dash. X dash is the final extension of the spring at a elevated height. So g dash upon g is equals to x dash upon x. Now g, as we know, g is inversely proportional to r square. Therefore re square upon re plus h squared, so that is nothing but 6,400 kilometers squared upon 6,400 plus 16,400 squared. So that is nothing but pardon me, this is 1,600. 6,400 upon 8,000 squared, so which is nothing but 16 by 25. So x dash is nothing but 16 by 25 times x, which is 16 by 25 into 1 centimeters, so that is 0.64 centimeters. Hence option B is the correct answer. Which of the following statements is correct? Let us look at the statements and analyze them one by one. Acceleration due to gravity increases with increasing altitude. Now acceleration due to gravity at a height h or at altitude h above the earth's surface, so at an altitude h, is given by g times re square upon re plus h square. So where g is the acceleration due to gravity on the earth's surface, re is the radius of the earth, and h is the altitude. Now as we can see, h is in the denominator. The acceleration due to gravity at a height h decreases with increase in the altitude. Therefore the option A is incorrect. The second option says acceleration due to gravity increases with increasing depth. Now the gravity at a depth d is g times 1 minus d upon re. As you can see that with increasing depth, the gravity, the acceleration due to gravity, since there is a negative sign, the acceleration due to gravity again decreases, and hence option B is also incorrect. Now the variation of acceleration due to latitude is given by g minus re omega square cos square lambda, where omega is the angular velocity of the rotation of the earth Now since as we can see that acceleration due to gravity increases with increasing latitude, therefore option number C is the correct answer. A body weighs 72 newtons on the surface of the earth. What is the gravitational force on it due to the earth at a height equal to half the radius of the earth? The options given are 16 newtons, 28 newtons, 32 newtons and 72 newtons. Now the weight of the body on the surface of the earth is given as 72 newtons, which is nothing but mass into the acceleration due to gravity g. Now acceleration due to gravity at a height h is given by g times re square upon re plus h square. So which is nothing but g re squared upon re plus at a distance of half the earth's radius, so h would be re by 2 square. So that is nothing but 4 by 9 times g. So the force or the weight of the body will be nothing but m times g into the acceleration due to gravity at the height h, which is 4 by 9 times g. So m into 4 by 9 g. Now mg is the weight of the initial weight of the body. So F or the new force is 4 by 9 into mg, which is nothing but 72 newtons. So solving this we get the F or the weight as 32 newtons. Hence option C is the correct answer. The acceleration due to gravity at the poles and the equator is Gp and Ge respectively. If the earth is a sphere of radius Re and rotating about its axis with angular speed omega, then Gp minus Ge is given by, the options are omega square upon Re, omega square upon Re square, omega square R square minus, and the last option is omega square Re. The value for acceleration due to gravity due to change in latitude is given by g dash is equals to g times g minus re times omega square cos square lambda. Now at the equator lambda is equals to 0. Therefore cos 0 or cos lambda is equals to 1. Therefore g dash is equals to g minus re omega square. Now at the poles g dash lambda is equals to 90 degree. Then cos 90 or cos lambda at the poles is 0. Therefore g dash is g minus re omega square into cos 90, which is 0. So g dash is equals to g. So gp minus ge. So gp and this is ge. gp minus ge is nothing but g minus re omega square. So that is nothing but re omega square. Hence option number D is the correct answer. The dependence of acceleration due to gravity g on the distance r from the center of the earth assumed to be a sphere of radius r of uniform density is as shown in the figure below. Now we need to determine which is the correct figure. The variation of acceleration g with depth is written as g into 1 minus d upon r, that is g times r minus d upon r. Let us just assume this as small r, where small r is the distance of a point from the center of the earth. So as you can see, g dash is proportional to r. So as r increases, the value of gravitation increases up to the point where r becomes equal to the radius of the earth and g dash becomes equals to g. So as you can see, g is proportional to r up for depth, and with increasing in height, g is given as g r square upon r plus h. Now here r plus h is our height, or our the value of small r. So as you can see, g dash is inversely proportional to r square. As height increases, the value of g dash decreases. So this is linearly proportional, and this is inversely proportional but in the parabolic form, since it is r square. Hence the figure number D, or the fourth figure, in linearly proportional and then parabolically proportional in the inverse manner, is the correct figure. The change in potential energy when a body of mass m is raised to a height n times re from the earth's surface is, where re is the radius of the earth. The options are mg re n upon n minus 1, mg times re, mg re into n upon n plus 1, mg re upon n. Now the gravitational potential U at the surface at any point at a distance r from the center of the earth is given by gm, mass of the earth, into mass of the object, upon r. Now at the surface of the earth, r is nothing but the radius of the earth. Therefore u1, let us take u1 at the surface of the earth upon re. Re is the radius. Now at a height h, which is n times re, so the distance r becomes re plus h, which is nothing but n times r. So re plus n times re, which is re into 1 plus n. Therefore the potential now becomes minus g, mass of the earth, mass of the object, upon re into 1 plus n. Change in potential delta U is given as U2 minus U1, which is nothing but minus GM M upon RE 1 plus N minus GM M upon RE. So which is nothing but GM, mass of the earth, into mass of the object, times n upon n plus 1 re. Now gm and divided by re can be written as the value of gravitational constant, and re n upon n plus 1. When you multiply this by re and re square, so gm upon re square is written as g, that is the acceleration due to gravity. So option number C is the correct answer. Two spheres, each of mass m and radius r, are separated by a distance r. The gravitational potential at the midpoint of the line joining the centers of the spheres is, the options are minus gm upon r, minus 2 gm upon r, minus gm upon 2r, and minus 4 times gm upon r. Let us draw two spheres which are separated by a distance r. The radius of each sphere being r and the mass m. Let P be the midpoint at a distance r by 2 from each. So the gravitational potential at point P is given as minus gm upon r by 2 minus gm upon r by 2 due to each of the spheres. which is nothing but minus 2 gm upon r by 2, which is nothing but minus 4 gm upon r. Hence option D is the correct answer. The mass of the earth is 6 into 10 raised to 4 kg and that of the moon is 7.4 into 10 raised to 22 kg. The potential energy of the system is minus 7.79 into 10 raised to 28 joules. The mean distance between the earth and the moon is, the value of gravitational constant is given by 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. The options are 3.8 into 10 raised to 8 meters, 3.37 into 10 raised to 6 meters, 7.6 into 10 raised to 4 meters, and 1.9 into 10 raised to 2 meters. Now, the value of potential, gravitational potential, is given as U equals minus G times mass of the earth into mass of the moon upon the distance between them. So R can be given as minus G ME mm upon U. Substituting the values, we get minus 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11. Mass of the earth given as 6 into 10 raised to 24. Mass of the moon given as 7.4 into 10 raised to 22 upon the potential, which is given as minus 7.79 into 10 raised to 28. So on solving this, we get 3.8 into 10 raised to 8 meters. Hence, option A is the correct answer. A particle of mass m is situated at the center of a spherical shell of same mass and radius r. The gravitational potential at a point situated at r by 2 distance from the center will be, the options are minus 3 gm upon r, minus 2 gm upon r, minus gm upon r, and minus 4 gm upon r. Now let us draw the figure. This is the spherical shell of mass m and this is a point mass m. There is a point P at a distance of r by 2 and the radius of the spherical shell is r. Now the gravitational potential at point P due to the point mass at the center O is given by V1 is equals to minus Gm upon r by 2. That is the distance between these 2 points. And now the gravitational potential due to the entire sphere at the point P is minus Gm upon r. So total gravitational potential is nothing but V1 plus V2, which is minus Gm upon r by 2 plus minus Gm upon r. So that is minus 2 Gm upon r minus Gm upon r, which is nothing but minus 3 Gm upon r. Hence option A is the correct answer. Two uniform solid spheres of equal radii r but mass m and 4m have a center to center separation 6r as shown in the figure. A projectile of mass m is projected from the surface of the sphere of mass m directly towards the center of the second sphere. The minimum speed of the projectile so that it reaches the surface of the second sphere is, the options given are root of 4 by 5 times gm upon r, root of 5 by 4 times gm upon r, root of 3 by 5 times gm upon r, and root of 5 by 3 times gm upon r. Now let the projectile be having a mass small m and it is fired with a velocity v so that it reaches from the mass m to the surface of mass m. Let n be a neutral point from the distance r, at a distance r from this sphere till where the potential becomes 0, and from this point n, this surface or this sphere starts pulling it. So n would be the neutral point. So what we need to find out is the velocity up to which it needs to be projected to reach the point n. So at the neutral point n, the gravitational potential is gm m upon r square, and due to the second sphere, g 4 times m into the mass of the object m to 6 r minus r square, that is 6r minus r. Therefore 6r minus r square equals 4r square. Now therefore r is equals to 2r, or r is equals to minus 6r. Since minus 6r doesn't concern with us, so the value of r is nothing but 2r. It is sufficient that if we project the mass up to a distance of r, after which it will start pulling. So E1, or the energy or kinetic energy, is half m v square minus g m upon r minus g times 4m m upon 5r. So this is the energy with which the projectile should be projected, or the mass should be projected. Now at the neutral point n, the velocity reaches 0. At the neutral point, the velocity would be 0, and the mechanical energy at the point n is given by En is equals to minus g m times m upon 2r minus g 4 times m upon 4r. So that is nothing but g m upon 2r minus g m upon r. Now according to law of conservation of mechanical energy, initial is equals to neutral. Therefore half mv square minus gmm upon r minus 4gm upon 5r, this is equals to minus gmm upon r, or 2r, minus gmm upon r. Therefore solving for the value of v square we get it as 2gm upon r to 4 by 5 minus 1 by 2. So that can be written as 3 by 5 times gm upon r. Therefore v is nothing but 3 by 5 times gm upon r and the under root. Hence option number C is the correct answer. The escape velocity from the surface of the earth is, where re is the radius of the earth. The options are root of 2 GRE, root of GRE, 2 root GRE, and root of 3 GRE. Now the escape velocity, the formula for escape velocity is given as root of G to root of 2 GME upon RE, which is nothing but root of 2 times, this can be multiplied by RE and divided by RE. So GM and RE square can be written as G and RE inside. So VE is nothing but root of 2G RE. So hence option A is the correct answer. If V is the escape velocity and V0 is the orbital velocity of a satellite for orbit close to the Earth's surface, then these are related by, the options are V0 is equal to root 2 times VE, V naught is equals to VE, VE is equal to V naught by 2, and VE equals to root 2 times V naught. Now the escape velocity is given as root of 2g me upon re, and the orbital velocity is given as root of gme upon re. So as we can see, VE is equals to root 2 times V naught. Hence option A is the correct, hence option D is the correct answer. A synchronous satellite goes around the Earth once in every 24 hours. What is the radius of orbit of the synchronous satellite in terms of the Earth's radius? Given that mass of the Earth is 5.98 into 10 raised to 24 kg, radius of the Earth is 6.37 into 10 raised to 6 meters, universal constant of gravitation G is 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. The options are 2.4 times Re, 3.6 times Re, 4.8 times Re, and 6.6 times Re, that is the radius of the Earth. So the time period of a satellite is given as t square is equals to 4 pi square r cube upon gme. Now r cube can be written as t square gme upon 4 pi square. So r can be written as t square gme upon 4 pi square raised to 1 by 3. Here t is given as 24 hours, which is nothing but 24 into 60 minutes into 60 seconds. The value of gravitational constant is given as 6.67 into 10 raised to 11, and the mass of the Earth is given as 5.98 into 10 raised to 24. Substituting these values, we get R is equals to 24 into 60 into 60 squared into 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11, 5.98 into 10 raised to 24 upon 4 times 3.14 squared, the whole raised to 1 by 3, which is nothing but 42.1 into 10 raised to 6 meters. So R upon RE is 42.1 into 10 raised to 6 upon the value of RE, that is 6.37 into 10 raised to 6. So which is nothing but 6.6. Therefore the value of R is 6.6 times RE. Hence option D is the correct answer. Match the column 1 with column 2 for a satellite in a circular orbital. Now the kinetic energy is given by Gm into m upon 2r, which is nothing but S, and the potential energy is given as minus Gm em upon r, so which is nothing but r. Total energy is given as minus G me into m upon 2r, so that is nothing but option number P, that is, and the orbital velocity is given by root of gme upon r, that is q. So A, S, B, R, C, P, and D, Q. Hence option number D is the correct answer. A satellite of mass m is in a circular orbit of radius 2 re about the Earth. The energy required to transfer it to a circular orbit of radius 4 re is, where me and re is the mass of the Earth respectively. The options given are G me m upon 2 re, G me m upon 4 re, Gme m upon 8 re, and Gme m upon 16 re. Now the initial total energy of the satellite is minus g times mass of the earth to mass of the satellite upon 4 re, and the final energy, total energy, is minus g mem upon 8 re. Now the change in energy, the total change in energy is nothing but final minus initial energy. So that is minus g mem upon 8 re minus of minus g mem upon 4 re. So that is nothing but this minus sign turns into a plus, and we get the value as gmem upon 8 re. Hence option number C is the correct answer. What is the change in potential energy of a satellite of mass m moving in the circular orbit of radius r, of radius 2 re, to shift it into an orbit of radius 4 re? The options are gmem upon 2 re, gmem upon 4 re, gmem upon 8 re, and gmem upon re. Now the total change in the potential energy is nothing but twice the total energy. So total change in the twice the total change, which is nothing but 2 times, as we seen in the previous sum, it's g mem upon 8 re. So the change in the potential energy is nothing but g mem upon 4 re. Hence option B is the correct answer. A satellite is orbiting the Earth in a circular orbit of radius r. There are 4 options given. Let us look at each option. The kinetic energy varies as r. Now for a satellite orbiting in a circle, the velocity is given as v is equals to root of g me upon r. Now the kinetic energy is given as half mv square. So substituting the value of v, we get half m gme upon r. As we can see, the kinetic energy is inversely proportional to r, and here it is given as directly proportional. Therefore option A is incorrect. Now the angular momentum L is given as mvr, and substituting the value of v, we get m times root of gme upon r into r. So L is proportional to root of r, and since here it is 1 by root r, option B is also incorrect. The linear momentum is given as mv, which is nothing but m into root of gm upon r. So therefore P is inversely proportional to root r, and here it's since 1 by r, option C is also incorrect. Now the frequency of revolution is given as 1 by time period, which is nothing but 1 upon 2 pi root of gm upon r cube. So the frequency is proportional to r raised to 3 by 2. Hence option D is the correct answer. The additional kinetic energy to be provided to a satellite of mass m revolving around a planet of mass m, to transfer it from a circular orbit of radius r1 to another of radius r2, where r2 is greater than r1, is, the options are gmm into 1 minus r1 square minus 1 by r2 square, gmm into 1 by r1 minus 1 by r2, 2gmm into 1 by r1 minus 1 by r2, and half gmm into 1 by r1 minus 1 by r2. Now the total orbital energy is given by E is equals to minus g m small m upon 2r. where m is the mass of the planet and small m is the mass of the satellite. Now, to transfer it from a radius r1 into a larger radius r2, the extra energy should be supplied in the form of kinetic energy. So the value is given as E2 minus E1, that is the second or the larger radius minus the smaller radius. So which can be written as minus G mm upon 2 times R2 minus G mm upon 2 times R1. So this can be written as minus Gmm upon 2R2 plus Gmm upon 2 times R1. So which is nothing but Gmm by 2 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. Hence option D is the correct answer. A rocket is fired vertically from the surface of the earth with a speed v. How far from the earth does the rocket go before returning to the earth? The options are Re v square upon g Re minus v square, Re v square upon g Re plus v square, Re v square upon 2g Re minus v square, and Re v square upon 2g Re plus v square. Now let the rocket from the surface of the earth, let the rocket reach a maximum height h. So the total energy at the surface of the earth is nothing but half mv square minus gme into m upon re. And at the highest point, the total energy, since there will be a velocity will be 0 at the highest point, or at the height h, velocity would be 0, therefore the total energy would remain as g mem upon re plus h. Now according to the law of conservation of energy, the total energy at the surface should be equal to the total energy at height h. Therefore half mv square minus g mem upon re is equals to minus of g mem upon re plus h. Therefore half v square is equals to gme upon re minus gme upon r plus h. Now gme upon re can be written as gre square upon re minus gre square upon re plus h, which is nothing but gre common 1 minus re upon re plus h. So that can be nothing but gre h upon re plus h. Therefore this is half v square Therefore v square into re plus h is nothing but 2 times g re into h. Solving this for the value of h, we get re into v square upon 2g re minus v square. Hence option number C is the correct answer. Figure shows the variations of energy E with the orbit radius r of a satellite in a circular motion. Choose the correct statement. Now in this figure, let us just find out the energy. Kinetic energy of the satellite is given by g m into m upon 2r. Therefore, the kinetic energy is inversely proportional to R. The potential energy U is given as minus G m upon R. Therefore, U is also inversely proportional to R but in the negative direction. And the total energy is given as minus G m upon 2R. Therefore, the total energy is also inversely proportional to 2R but in the negative direction. From the graph, we can see that the curve A represents the kinetic energy, the curve B represents the potential energy, and curve C represents the total energy, but since it is twice, the value is higher as compared to B. Hence, from the following statements, let us read. A shows the kinetic energy, B shows the total energy, which is incorrect since B shows the potential energy. Now A and B are the kinetic and the potential energy respectively, and C is the total energy of the satellite. Since this is matching, then option B is the correct answer. An asteroid of mass m is approaching Earth initially at a distance 10 RE with a speed VI. It hits the Earth with a speed VF. RE and ME are the radius and the mass of the Earth. Then, in these options, we need to find out the relation of the final velocity and the initial velocity. Now, the initial total energy of the asteroid is nothing but Ki plus Ui, that is initial kinetic plus initial potential energy. So half m Vi square minus Gm m upon 10 times Re. And the final energy of the asteroid is half mvf square minus Gmem upon Re. Now, according to law of conservation of energy, initial energy should be equal to the final energy. Therefore, equating the two equations, half mvi square minus Gmem upon 10 Re is equals to half mvf square minus Gmem upon Re. Therefore, Vf square minus 2Gm E upon Re, since m is the small m is constant in all the terms, it's taken out common and cancelled, and Vi square minus 2Gm upon 10 times Re. Therefore, Vf square is equals to Vi square plus 2 times Gme upon Re into 1 minus 1 by 10, which is nothing but option C. Hence, option C is the correct answer. For a satellite moving in an orbit around the Earth, the ratio of its potential energy to the kinetic energy is, the options given are 1, minus 1, 2 and minus 2. The kinetic energy of a satellite is given by the formula Gme, that is mass of the Earth upon mass of the satellite upon 2R, and whereas the potential energy is given as minus Gme into mass of the satellite upon R. So the ratio of U by K turns out to be minus 2. Hence option D is the correct answer. Two satellites of Earth S1 and S2 are moving in the same orbit. The mass of S1 is 4 times the mass of S2. Which one of the following statements is true? The first statement says the potential energies of the Earth and the satellite in the two cases are equal. Let us look at the value of potential energy is equals to minus G mass of the Earth into mass of the satellite upon R. Since the satellites S1 and S2 are in the same orbit, the value of R remains constant, whereas the value of the S2, the mass of S2 is 4 times S1. Therefore, the potential energy of 1 is not it will be less than the potential, or would be greater than the potential of 2. Therefore, they are not equal. Hence, option A is incorrect. Now, option B, S1 and S2 are moving with the same speed. The orbital speed is given by root of gme upon r, and the time period is given as 4 pi square r cube upon gme, the whole raised to 1 by 2. As you can see, the orbital speed and the time period of revolution are independent of mass of the satellite, and therefore they would the both the satellites would be moving with the same speed. Hence, option B is the correct answer. A satellite is to be placed in an equatorial geostationary orbit around the Earth for communication. The height of such a satellite is, the given data is, mass of the Earth is 6 into 10 raised to 24 kg, radius of the Earth is given as 6400 kilometers, time period is 24 hours, and the gravitational constant is 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square. The options given are 3.57 into 10 raised to 5 meters, 3.37 into 10 raised to 6 meters, 3.57 into 10 raised to 7 meters, and 3.57 into 10 raised to 8 meters. Now, the formula for time period of a satellite at a height of h is given by 2 pi into re, that is the radius of the Earth, plus h upon root of gme upon r plus h. So this can be written as 2 pi re plus h raised to 3 by 2 upon root of gme. Now, squaring both the sides in order to remove the root, we get t square is equals to 4 pi square re plus h cube upon gme. Therefore, re plus h cube is equals to gme t square upon 4 pi square. Therefore, the value of h, we get it as gme t square upon 4 pi square, the whole raised to 1 by 3 minus re. Now, substituting the values of mass, time period, and the radius of the Earth, we get h is equals to 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 to 6 into 10 raised to 24 to 24 hours into 60 minutes into 60 seconds, the square of it, the whole raised to 1 by 3 divided by 4 into 3.14 squared minus re, that is nothing but 6.4 into 10 raised to 6 meters. So we get it as 4.21 into 10 raised to 7 minus 6.4 into 10 raised to 6, which is nothing but 3.57 into 10 raised to 7 meters. Hence, option C is the correct answer. The orbit of a geostationary satellite is circular. The time period of the satellite depends on, now just let's look at the formula for time period of the satellite, which is nothing but 2 pi re plus h upon v naught, and the formula for v naught, or orbital velocity, is nothing but root of gm upon re plus h. Now, as we can see, both the time period and the orbital velocity are independent of the mass of the satellite, and hence they only depend on the mass of the Earth and the radius of the Earth and height of the orbit. Therefore, according to the question, the values are mass of the satellite, mass of the Earth, radius of the orbit, height of the satellite from the surface of the Earth. As we can see, the option 1 is included in all the three options and it is independent of the mass of the satellite, hence option D is the correct answer. The angular speed of rotation of the Earth is, the options are 7.3 into 10 raised to minus 5 radians per second, 7.3 into 10 raised to minus 4 radians per second, 7.3 into 10 raised to minus 6 radians per second, and 7.3 into 10 raised to minus 3 radians per second. Now as we know, the time period of Earth rotation is 24 hours, which is nothing but 24 into 3600 seconds of each hour. That is 86,400 seconds in the entire day. And angular speed omega is given by 2 pi by t, which is 2 pi upon 86,400, which is nothing but 7.3 into 10 raised to 5, 10 raised to minus 5 radians per second. Hence option A is the correct answer. The gravitational field intensity at a point 10,000 kilometers from the center of the Earth is 4.8 newtons per kg. The gravitational potential at that point is, the options are minus 4.8 into 10 raised to 7 joules per kg, minus 2.4 into 10 raised to 7 joules per kg, 4.8 into 10 raised to 6 joules per kg, and 3.6 into 10 raised to 6 joules per kg. Now, the value of gravitational field intensity is given by the formula Gm upon r square, and whereas the gravitational potential is given by minus Gm by r. Therefore, V by E is nothing but minus r. Therefore, V is equals to minus of E times r. So the gravitational potential at the point is minus of E times, that is minus 4.8 into 10,000 into 10 raised to 3 meters in order to convert it into meters. So that is nothing but minus 4.8 into 10 raised to 7 joules per kg. Hence option number A is the correct answer. The direction of gravitational intensity at point P of a hemispherical shell of uniform mass density is indicated by the arrow. The options are D, E, F and G. Now at this point P, the arrows G, F and D are all in the same plane as the top surface, whereas the direction E is towards or inside the hemisphere. Now the gravitational potential always acts towards the center and hence it will be acting along the arrow E. Hence option B should be the right answer. Particles of masses 2m, m and m respectively are at points A, B and C with AB is equals to half of BC. Small m is much smaller than capital M at the time t is equal to 0. They are all at rest. At subsequent times before any collision takes place, we need to find out what happens. The options are m will remain at rest, m will move towards point C or capital M, m will move towards point A or 2m, and m will have an oscillatory motion. Let us look at the forces that are acting on the mass at the point B with respect to both at points A and C. Now force at M or force at B with respect to A or the mass 2m is given by G times m into 2m upon AB squared, and this is along BA. Similarly, force of mass B due to point C is given by G times m into capital M upon BC squared, and this is along B to C. Now as we can see, FBA and FBC are in opposite directions. Therefore the resultant force acting at point B is given by Fr, which is equals to F1 minus F2, that is FBA or FAB minus FBC. So that is nothing but 2 times GM M upon AB square minus GM into M upon BC square. Now it is given that AB is half of BC. So let us substitute Fr is equals to 2 Gm small m into BC upon 2 minus Gm into small m upon BC squared. Now this is along BA. So that is equals to 8 GMM upon BC square minus GM into M upon BC square. This is along B2A. So it's 7 times GMM upon BC squared along BA. As we can see, the resultant force is 7 GMM upon BC from along B to A, along B towards A. Therefore, what we can conclude is that the mass M will move towards the mass 2M. Hence, option number C is the correct answer.